Around the world, people still risk their lives to protest. In some places, protest means prison. In others, it means death. And then there is the West, where protest often means costumes, chaos, and cameras. This isn't just embarrassing, it's dangerous. Because when protest becomes stupid, where it's safe, it delegitimizes protests where it isn't. Now, believe it or not, there was a time when protesting was serious. Protest once had discipline and teeth. The Montgomery bus boycott wasn't a viral moment. It lasted 381 days and started the city's economy. It targeted the city's economy. The Birmingham campaign under Martin Luther King Jr. used boycotts, mass arrests, and media exposure strategically but randomly. The March on Washington wasn't leadership chaos, it had demands, it had coordination, it had negotiation leverage. Even when laws were broken, it was purposeful civil disobedience, designed to force moral and political confrontation. Protest wasn't about expression, it was about pressure. This isn't something you see in the modern day. In the modern day, protests are more about self-expression, about costumes, about looking good, about looking moral, about things that you don't even understand. There was an absurd turn. Protesting became a performance. So we fast forward to today, and protest has changed. Not into something more radical, but into something far less serious. Many modern protests have no leadership, no unified demands, no end goals. They aren't movements, they are moments. And power doesn't fear moments because moments come to pass. Movements stay forever. The first protest we're going to talk about is Just Stop Oil. Silly and illegal. Just Stop Oil protests were silly at the best and illegal at the worst. So what they would do is they would block highways, they would throw soup on priceless artwork, which this one perhaps me the wrong way because I like art. And I know how it feels when you finished drawing something and someone and it is ruined. They would throw to soup on priceless art. They would disrupt ordinary people who have zero policy power. They were illegal. Effective? No. Now, how was this supposed to help? This wasn't helping anything because the people it was affecting were not the people who had the power to change the policy.
Car crash actually linked to one of my circle of friends. She died because an ambulance couldn't get through because your protesters, Just Stop Oil, were blocking the road and the ambulance couldn't get through in time. She couldn't get the help she needed and she died. Earlier you said that you are a peaceful protester. My friend is dead. How do you answer that?
All those things didn't really affect power. Power doesn't really care about those small things. All they're going to do is try to stop your protest in the future rather than try to listen to your demands. Now, these actions they would alienate the public. People would then become against their cause instead of sympathize with them, because their cause is actually affecting me individually in a negative way. So they would create backlash because people obviously were going to be unhappy. They would reduce sympathy for the climate action. Now, since Just Stop Oil started doing their protests, I think the sympathy for this cause has gone down. People used to take it seriously. People used to think, well, climate change could be a serious thing. It could be a serious thing. The global warming could be a serious thing. But then after seeing the representative of the cause, people became against it. They went from undivided, from in the middle, to against it. They didn't want to hear anything to do with the climate change. Some even started denying that climate change even exists in the first place. So instead of pressuring governments, they provide easy talking points for dismissal. When protest looks unserious, the cause, no matter how real, gets dragged down with it. Now, then we go to illegal without leverage. Don Lemon and the church protests. Some protests cross legal and moral lines without gaining leverage. Consider the church protests involving Don Lemon coverage, where demonstrators disrupted a religious service to make a political point. It wasn't targeted at lawmakers. It wasn't strategic. It wasn't persuasive. It violated social norms without producing political power. Now, all this did was make people, basically all Christians around America, and even around the world, to think that these guys are against Christianity when they themselves claim to be Christians. That's all this protest did. It made people sympathize with the people they were starting to that they were disrupting, people who were in the church. It made people sympathize with the ICE agent they were looking for. Like his life is because of his job. Now these people are going to be targeting him.
Former CNN anchor and a former colleague of mine and friend, Don Lemon, has been taken into custody by federal agents, according to his attorney. It comes after Lemon covered the protest earlier this month, dozens of anti-ICE protesters rushing inside of a church in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Now we go to the No Kings Except Maduro protests. Yes, the irony is striking with this one. This is one of the most striking examples of how modern Western protests can undermine themselves. In 2025 to 2026, No Kings protests sprang up across the United States. Millions of people marching against a banner rejecting authoritarianism and unchecked power. The movement name is explicitly tied to a rejection of anything like monarchy or dictatorship. But in early 2026, something strange happened. When the US military intervened to capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, a leader widely regarded as an authoritarian, with a record of stolen elections and repression, some protests participated some protest participants reported displayed signs calling to free Maduro or oppose his detention. The contradiction speaks volumes. The irony is huge, and the hypocrisy is sharp. The same people calling for no kings are the same people calling yes kings. It's incredible. So, how did this come to be? One of the reasons this comes to be is through an echo chambers online. People hearing what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. The No Kings protests were not against kings, they were against Trump. The Free Maduro protests were not for Maduro, they were against Trump. That's what they have in common. So the protests don't matter. What they're saying in the protest is not really what they mean. What they're saying supports what they mean. It helps their actual cause. But they know their actual cause would face huge opposition. So they choose a cause that people might sympathize with. People might understand that you don't want kings, but not everyone will understand that you don't want Trump.
It's been weeks since nationwide protests broke out in Iran, but it isn't the first time we have seen protests over Iran's regime and religious leaders.
Then we're going to talk about the global contrast, comparing the Western protests to protests around the world. Now compared to Iran. Protests there face arrest, torture, execution, no costumes, no theatrics, no irony. Their protests are focused, unified, and deadly serious. Because the stakes are real. And here's the uncomfortable truth. When Western protests look ridiculous, authoritarian regimes point to them and say, see, protest is chaos, protest is meaningless. They look at the Just Stop Oil and say, if we let protesters go out on the street, they will do this to your paintings. They will block your roads. They will ruin your day. They will destroy your restaurants. They will steal stuff from your shops. Now, the silly protests in safe countries undermine legitimacy of protests in dangerous ones. Protest didn't die because it was suppressed. It died because it forgot what made protesting powerful. It traded discipline for spectacle, strategy for outrage, pressure for performance. The result? Illegal but pointless protests, silly but loud protests, unattended protests, and divided protests shouting past each other. None of these scare people. None of these scare power. They scare people. The people who are most afraid are just the random guy who's passing by the protest. The government just knows it's going to be a different story the next week. If we are to change the policy, next time they will be protesting for us to put it back. So why change it? Now, history proves protests work, but only when it is focused, strategic, and costly to ignore. The strongest hand America ever had was not the right to shout. It was the ability to organize pressure. So intense, the system had no choice but to respond. Until protest remembers that, it won't just fail at home, it will weaken protest everywhere. Now, if you made it to the end, thank you for watching this video. This has been the Mad Scientist Reacts Protest, and goodbye.